New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
Shariff Abdullah here.
And this is New Thought today for Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. So grateful that you're with us. And my co-host, Reverend LZ, and I are very excited to have with us today our special guest, Shariff Abdullah. He is the Executive Director of Common Way Institute. And if you have paid any attention to this channel, this network in the past 3 years, I trust you've heard his name and you've heard us talk about his books. And we love you up all the time here on New Thought Media Network, Dr. Shariff. So we're so grateful you are with us here today.
Good to be here.
And as is kind of our custom, we don't like those canned biographies that everybody sends around. Hence, we didn't ask you for one. But we would love if you take a few moments and share with us a little bit, share with the audience a little more about who you are and Common Way, and kind of launch us into our conversation here today.
Well, we should have taped the first half hour of us talking. That would have been a nice segue there. I was talking a lot about my past. Born in Philadelphia, raised in Camden, New Jersey, raised in the worst parts of the worst city in America, really having a profound sense even at the age of 8 or 9 years old, that this is not the way that human beings should be living. This is not the way that for our lives and our purpose. And getting involved in social change at a really early age. Led my first demonstration at 11 years old. Somebody stuck a bullhorn in my hand, which is kind of launched exactly where I am right now. I mean, the internet is now the world's bullhorn. The only bad thing about it is that a few billion people have these bullhorns, and they've been spewing whatever they want coming out of that bullhorn. I was moved to take part in a number of our social change activities. Started an organization called the Black People's Unity Movement when I was 13 or 14, and it still exists, which is really interesting. Yes. Joined the Black Panther Party, and when I got to college, realized that it wasn't just Black people who were having trouble. Okay. I lived in a Black bubble, okay, and in that bubble, it only looked like we were the only ones not faring well.
Right.
Since that time, I've been blessed, or sometimes cursed, with being able to go to 45 different countries all around the world, every continent that actually has people on it. No penguins yet. Actually, that's not true. I was in South Africa and went to a beach that has penguins on it.
Wow.
So, but none on the Antarctic continent. Um, I've probably been to about 120, 130 different cultures. And that has given me a perspective that shows that everyone, the society that we've created, doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't even work for the people it purports to work for. It doesn't work for the super rich. It doesn't work for the Hollywood stars. It doesn't work for the politicians. Right. They're catching a different kind of hell than the rest of us because they know it doesn't work for them. So our challenge is, out of this mess that we've created, and a mess that affects each of us differently, out of the mess that we've created, the question is, how do we create a world that not only works for me, and not only works for people who look like me or act like me, how does it work for all humanity? And how does it work for all living beings? Yeah. So how do we get to this point? And that's the challenge that I think we have today.
Yeah, that's so important, because I when I first picked up your book, A World That Works for All, that all stood out to me in that it's, most people say, oh, we want to create a better place for people, right? And now with the pet movement, animals are beginning, of certain types are beginning to creep in there, but it's everything. It's all. It's the trees, it's the rocks, it's the bugs under the rock, because there is this oneness. There is this what is big now, this diversity of the universe, that one thing depends on another. And if you start indiscriminately pulling things out, inevitably you break up the whole continuity of the thing, and then trying to fix it is going to be a real challenge.
Yes, indeedy. We don't get it. I mean, the those of us in common way, sometimes we talk about, does this person get it? And by getting it, get understanding, it is all connected. This isn't, when you talk about animals, I'm not talking about your pets. I'm talking about the animals you don't like. I'm talking about the animals who would love to have you for dinner. Okay. And the issue is, how does this world work for all? And our challenge is, how does how does our consciousness, how do we get to the point that we have one consciousness that includes all of the other human beings, but also includes all other beings? Our Native American and other indigenous friends will talk to us about how other beings have consciousness and can talk to you and can tell you which way to go and that you're going the wrong way. Yes. And we don't pay attention because of the arrogance that says, not only are we the only consciousness, our consciousness, the only consciousness on the planet, we're the only consciousness in the universe. I was watching this YouTube talking about the Fermi paradox. And the Fermi paradox is, if this universe is so big and has so many planets, et cetera, why are we the only ones? And I'm waiting for us to get over the arrogance that thinks that you are the only one. I say this in my new book. You're not seeing others because they're staying away from you because your breath is bad. Okay. I mean, how we act in the world. Who wants us to be part of their family? Right. We're throwing our garbage out the front door. We're throwing our feces out the back. We're beating each other up. We're killing each other. Then you say, hey, is anybody there want to talk to us?
Yeah.
I think that we'll see lots and lots of other kinds of consciousness. as soon as we get over our own arrogance, our own I'm the pinnacle of civilization arrogance, and start the process of becoming a civilized species. At some point in time, we'll do that.
Yeah, and that's I'm sitting here laughing because I just happened to see a news article this morning about the beginnings of another debate that just happened a few months ago about shutting down the government on September 30th because on how to pay the government or how to pay the people that run the government. And I'm thinking, when you did that last one, like you did all the ones before, you knew this was coming. Why are we waiting till there's an impending crisis or an impending peril that we feel that, oh, now is the time to act? And it's like, no, the time to act was, some time ago. But it's that arrogance. And as you said, I think this whole idea of everybody now has a megaphone or bullhorn, and they want to shout out their stuff. Robert and I was talking about this the other day in terms of spirituality. There's a lot of different people claiming certain spiritual practices and this, that, and the other. But the ability to go out and vet, if you will, all of these people is not possible. And if you have an eloquent, if you got a slick snake oil salesman, people will jump to it and create more damage than you were before. And we have to begin to figure out, as it's said in a lot of, the indigenous cultures and some of the martial arts traditions, like, you need to empty your cup and maybe wash your cup out before you start putting some in it. There's some residue.
Yeah. Have you examined what's in that cup?
Exactly. Well, and I want to jump in on this arrogance piece because I think there's two levels of it, right? There are those that say, no, the dolphins are not intelligent. They're not communicating. They don't have a language of their own. And then there's those that say, well, no. Yes, they are. Yes, they do. And then we take that segment and we break it into two more, because then there's still those that'll eat tuna that isn't ethically, and that are still eating tuna. And I'm going to say it straight up. I'm not a vegan. I still eat. You said earlier, though, even those lives that want to eat us, and even the animals that we want to eat for dinner, that's all part of this one system and this oneness. And I think our arrogant, we kind of it comes in waves. We get over our arrogance, but it develops in a new way that says, well, yeah, I get it that we're all one, but I'm still having dolphin for dinner, or I'm still having my steak for dinner, or I'm still going to eat pork chops on Thursdays, or whatever it might be. And what I've always loved about your work is it feels like it is commanding and still somewhat gentle in calling us to a greater expression of ourselves under this vision of a world that really does work for all life, not just all humans.
Right. No, this is absolutely true. And I want to take the shutting down the government piece first, and then come back to
we love to mix up our guests here.
The consciousness of what's on my plate. Okay. But you're absolutely right. This is a dance that gets done every year. I mean, I think every 6 months or so, they have a new continuing resolution. And oh my God, the government will have to shut down if it doesn't do such and such and such a thing. Right. I say, shut it down. Shut it. Like, what exactly does it do if it can't pass one resolution every 6 months? Okay. What does it do except give a platform to some overpaid people who are pandering to the bottom line of the right and the bottom line of the left. I don't put any distinction between them. These are the two wings on a really sick bird. Okay.
Yeah.
We need to have a whole other way of thinking about governance. And because all of our airwaves are occupied with continuing resolution, the government's going to shut down. Oh my God, oh my God. We don't ever get a chance to have that conversation.
Right.
I think it was in Denmark where their parliament was not able to pass a continuing resolution. The government shut down for 2 or 3 years. They were never able. It's like their lives went on. They didn't need these folks, at some point, someone is going to come forward and say, let's figure out how we as human beings and we as living beings on this planet govern ourselves for the good of all. That should be the idea. I'm me as a man telling a woman what she has to do with her body is ludicrous. And the only reason they do that is because to actually tackle the issues that are presented with us is too hard. Let's make some up.
Yes. Yes.
And it is all about arrogance. It's about not caring. Yeah. I was thinking when you were talking about the food on your plate. I was thinking about my Native American friends here in the Pacific Northwest, especially the ones that live on salmon. I mean, like the 90% of their diet is salmon, and they catch the salmon in one season, like 1 month or so. They catch all the salmon they eat for the year, and the first thing they do is catch one fish. And this fish is treated ceremonially. They recognize the spirit of this being. When the fish is prepared, everyone in their tribe, from the eldest to the youngest, or the youngest baby, gets a piece of this fish so that they can become one. And that's all they eat, this one bite that day. This is so that they become one with the consciousness of the fish. And when they do this, every year there are more and more fish. Now, compare that to how we send out these industrial trawlers that just grab anything they possibly can in the ocean, take what's valuable and kill the rest, make money, which is it's all about making money, and destroying their own souls, and also destroying the souls of the fish. Our challenge isn't don't ever take a life, because life always feeds on life. Look at what was in your oatmeal bowl was alive at some point in time. Okay. The question is, do you recognize that, and are you thankful for it? And I don't mean, okay, say grace, okay, amen, and we're done. Go ahead and eat. But it's really to think about, how did it get on your plate? Who brought it there? Did you say thanks to them? Are you eating industrial food, or are you eating the food that is natural? All of these questions are part of how do we create a world that works for all?
And one thing there real quick, Rob, is that, when I think about, when you bring up the indigenous communities around the world, and one thing that they have in common is this idea of a rites of passage, where they take the young people, and there's a rites of passage at every stage, right? There's one for birth, there's one for the normal rites of passage, there's one for elders, there's one to step into the ancestral realm. I mean, there's these ceremonial, if you will, ritualistic, if you will, but it's more than that. It's a transferring of knowledge and wisdom about the cycle of life and how you commune with life. And one of my there's a spirit, there's a connection to all things, and I always like to use my one surefire story on that. No one has ever seen gravity, but no one questions gravity. You don't see people jumping off buildings saying, "I don't see gravity; it can't exist." They respect it.
I was talking with someone whom you may have met. He's passed on now, Malidoma Some, and he was saying how some of the rites of passage he had to go through, and going from being a boy to becoming a man, and he was saying. Sometimes, he said in one case he had to go out into the bush, live for 30 days on his own. All the food he ate was food that he caught. All the water he drank was water that came from a stream. And he said, they were all trained well. They were trained to how to survive that. But he said every few years, a young person would not come back. They would die, and the village would mourn them. But the villagers also knew that one was not going to turn out well. Okay, and so this is not a rite, not a rite of passage that the result at the end. Right. This is the rite of passage that says, at this point, you're either going to become a butterfly or you're not going to become anything at all. Yeah. And our challenge is, can we grow into our next step? I'll speak for myself here. I am knocking on the door of my elderhood. I'm changing gears. I was the one that was out there, let's lead the demonstration. Let's dig the ditch. Let's do that work, and now I'm moving into, there's a ditch that needs to be dug, and you young people over there need to be digging it. You are the ones that need to be doing that. And actually, I think you need to put your backs into it now, and in this society, though, who listens to that? Who listens to me? Folks are out there trying to figure out how to make more money, as though money is going to solve their problem. I think it was Emmett Fox, who said, when he was counseling people, he would rather counsel rich people than poor people. He said that because rich people understood that money won't solve their problems. Poor people are just trying to, I'll get more money and then my problems will go away. And it's like, oh, no, they won't. They'll just change. They change. They
get bigger.
Right. They get bigger. They get more complex. They get uglier. And you may not want that to happen.
Well, I love what you're sharing here, because I agree. I want to agree. There's so many people that get to a point where they're like, well, just more money. But then the solution is they're going to hire somebody to do the stuff that they don't know how to do. Because they never put any effort into it. They never put any real back into it, as it will. And again, when I look at what you've done, you spent your time in the trenches. You spent your time, and literally, not just figuratively, growing up in Camden, you spent your time in the trenches. And you might be knocking on that door a little louder than I am. I kind of knock lightly and run away right now on my elderhood. Yeah, you don't have to.
Where are you running to?
But it's led you to a place of where you can see that more holistic picture. You can see how all these various systems are interacting and or not interacting. And again, that's part of what I've loved about your work is you call us to a greater level of looking at every part of it, that the whole system, rather than just this little bit over here that affects me and this little bit over here that I'm trying to affect.
Yeah. You know, I'm thinking about this. Go ahead, Doc.
I was doing a talk somewhere or another, and this is on peace and nonviolence. And I was saying that we can create a society where weapons and violence are completely unnecessary. And someone was on the panel with me was saying, "Oh yes, that's true. Except for the police and the military, they need their weapons." And I said, we can create a world where there may be police, but they are not armed. There may be a military, but it is not armed. And this woman looked at me like I stopped speaking English and was speaking some strange language. It was beyond her capacity. You know, I said, when Jesus was saying that we can live in a society where we love each other, I don't think he was talking figuratively, and I don't think he was talking about a particular group of people. I think that what he was talking about is we can do this. And he didn't say, I've read the Bible a few times, I never heard him say you have to like each other. Right. I don't think he ever said that. I think that you can have a really healthy dislike for someone and still treat them as the son or daughter of God that they are. Yeah. Once you get to that point, then you can start talking about having a spiritual practice. Yes. What we wind up doing is divorcing our spiritual life, which takes place on Sunday or Saturday, depending on your faith, or Friday, depending on your faith. And then the rest of the week is all yours, and you can act like a fool. And so our challenge is that world, that's what we call our spiritual life, takes place every single day, every moment of every day. And every moment of every day, you've got an opportunity to do something good. And you've also got the opportunity to ignore your test, forget that you're actually being tested. I was busy. I didn't have any time to do this. Right. I'm walking down the street, and when I do, I try to make eye contact with every single human being. I don't have to stop and have a chat. I can just make eye contact, sometimes just nod, sometimes how you doing, and just keep going. Yep. And I was passing this homeless woman, and I made a quick eye contact and I say, how you doing? She says, "Oh, I'm fine today. How are you doing?" Okay, well, that implies a conversation. There for about 5 minutes, okay? And she was having a great day. She was cleaning the cracks of the sidewalks, okay? Like, you know how dirt falls down in between the cracks? Yeah. She had this chisel thing, and she was scrubbing the crack. Now, they don't need cleaning. She's making this mound of dirt from all the stuff she's pulling out of this. She says, "I'm doing my part to make this community a better place." And I'm like, holy crap, but great. And so, and I had an opportunity to, first of all, get some of her positiveness. Yeah. And second of all, to give her some reflection of it's good that you're working to do a good thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how much do we miss by just, putting on the blank face and walking straight ahead and not connecting with our fellow human beings.
You know, two things that last point, you know, I walk around my neighborhood at the little lake by, and I see, you know, relatively the same people all the time. Because we walk around the same time, yada, yada, yada. And sometimes I do that. I say hi. And we've got we don't really know each other, but we're cordial. Hi, we've developed a relationship. Yep. And then there are other people that I've seen when they see me coming, they look down, right?
Yep.
Or they got the dog, or they make sure
yeah.
It's like unbelievable. And then the other thing that you made me really think about was they're scrolling through is Jay Forrester. You know, if you're in the system dynamics, Jay Forrester, a guy I think he was out of Harvard, who originally designed the heat sinking guided missile to recorrect itself, right? And then he got out of that business and started saying, hey, we need to look at the system dynamic of this universe. And he made the point that you made earlier that I think we don't give credence to, is that oftentimes what needs to be done is counterintuitive to what you think needs to be done. But because we've gotten used to thinking in a certain way within a certain parameters, like I can't make eye contact or I can't do any of that stuff, things don't get resolved, or they get into negative feedback loops and get worse when it only takes just a moment to step back and say, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. Let me look at it a different way. And the answer and solutions come right away. But we're not cultured, if you will, to have those kind of insights or those kind of exploration into doing something outside the norm.
Yeah, we talk about consciousness. But what we're talking about is our own little tiny itty bitty sliver of a certain kind of cultural idiom in which we connect. We are not talking about a broader sense of consciousness. We're not talking about the consciousness of the mayfly and the consciousness of the tortoise and the consciousness of all the others with lifespans in between that. Okay.
Yes.
And once we do that, I can see that, the people who walk by the homeless folks is because they put them in a bag in their own minds. You know, they're all drug addicts. They're all poor. They're all the people I don't want to connect with. So I don't care if Jesus comes back within them. Just clean him up and get a suit on him, and then I'll talk to him.
Yes. Yes.
So the challenge is how can we open our consciousness to, first of all, ourselves. How many of us are unconscious of who we are? Second of all, to each other. And third, to the ones who are opposing you. They have a message for you. You're not getting it because you're setting up all these oppositional barriers. And then the consciousness of beings who are nothing like you. We're talking about searching for extraterrestrial consciousness or intelligence. We can't even find it on our own planet. We can't find it when it's waving at you saying, hey, I'm over here, Right. At some time we'll stop and we'll listen.
You speak about Jesus coming back, and I want to explore that concept a little bit more in just a moment. However, folks, we do really need to take a break and let some of our sponsors have their say and let them know a little bit more about what they're doing. However, we're not going away. We've got lots more with Dr. Shariff Abdullah coming up after this. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Blessings, everybody. My name is Jafon Seeley. Could you imagine what is actually possible when we start honoring and recognizing our inherent worth? realizing that we are that which is assisting in co-creating our experience. And with that understanding, start recognizing that every human, every individual, everything that we interact with reflects that same inherent worth.
It's not about an adventure, it's about the atmosphere of the consciousness of adventure, the lifestyle of adventure. How many people would say that their lifestyle is adventurous?
My name is Lisa Benson. I'm a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant and the author of Anchored in Bias, Fired Over White Tears. It's a book detailing my lived experiences with workplace bias and what fueled my passion for normalizing conversations about differences and creating safe spaces for everyone to bring the best version of themselves to life every day.
And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. Our special guest today, Reverend I want to add a Reverend there. We're going to give you all the titles in the world. So, Dr. Shariff Abdullah, he's the Executive Director of Commonway Institute. Please check out their website, commonway.org. And before the break, you made a comment, right, regarding the unhoused, and we wouldn't recognize Jesus if he showed up in that community. And I don't know if either of you gentlemen have been are aware, there's a great television series out there now called The Chosen, and they give it away for free, thechosen.tv, and it's the Jesus story, and it's dramatized and brought forward in a new way. But it would seem to me that has to be the community where the second coming of the Christ is going to happen. It's not going to happen in a church of suits and politicians. It has to happen by the very nature of that entire story. It has to happen with the common people and the people that are most oppressed. And I would love to hear a little more of your thoughts on in and around that idea.
I've got two things regarding that. One is, and you gentlemen are maybe more learned about this than I am, but I think that Jesus was the first documented homeless person. I mean, I don't think anybody else in the Bible who was there was started out saying, okay, this guy's homeless. He was born in a barn, and his first crib was an animal stall. Okay. Where they put the hay for the horses. We dress it up, and everybody's so holy and there's stars shining above their head and they're singing great music as he's sitting in the barn. They couldn't get in the inn. Okay. So how in the world can you possibly despise poor and homeless people when your so-called savior started out that way? Do you think that God made a mistake, by him being this homeless child? My first crib wasn't a crib; it was a dresser drawer. They had two chairs. They put the dresser on the dresser drawer on the chairs, and they lined it with a blanket, and they threw me in that, and that was my crib. Okay, yeah. Now. My task is to not forget that, not have myself, because I have been in state dinners now and met prime ministers and presidents and all this other stuff, to not forget that my upbringing is North Philly in a dresser drawer. Okay. Let me say a second thing. I believe Jesus is coming back, but I believe that Jesus is coming back as you, as me, and as everyone who's watching this.
Yeah.
I think that there's a spark of divinity in each one of us that you, first of all, and all of you have been covering up, laughing at, making jokes about, but it's your divinity. I'll tell you a situation that really got me when I was 14 or 15 years old. Steeped in the Black Power movement. Went up to, took a busload of people up to Newark to see Stokely Carmichael speak. And huge auditorium, and he was doing his thing, and we were yelling and screaming, yeah! And he said, we are fighting for our humanity. And yay! And then he said, quieter, he said, we're fighting for our divinity. And very few people said, yeah. It's like, what was, and then he kind of keeps going on. And that, for me, was the showstopper. All through the evening, all the way back on the bus to Camden. I was like, what did he mean by that? Fighting for our divinity. I'm still struggling with that, but I get it now, but I'm only just getting it now. That each one of us has that spark of the divine, and when I take my consciousness and put it in a direction that it doesn't belong in, I'm not honoring the divine in me. If I'm occupying my time and my energy and my thoughts with, for example, Donald Trump, I am not honoring my divinity. Who cares if there's a Donald Trump in the world? Okay. There are a lot of people who are polarized between Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And they act like Tweedledum or Tweedledee is better or worse. And the reality is, who are you? And what is the world that you are creating? That if you are voting for the lesser of two evils, you're voting for evil. That what you be doing, and this is why I named my latest book, Birthing the Nation of Gaia. What we should be doing is creating an entirely new governance structure. And creating an entirely new governance structure based on some very, very simple principles. Principles that me sitting here in Portland, Oregon can get. Principles that someone sitting in Buenos Aires can get. Yeah. Principles that someone in the middle of Africa can get, or the middle of Asia, or the middle of Europe. Principles that can start us on the path of living the kind of life that maybe in 1,000 years or so, space aliens will want to show up.
Yes.
Because they know we're not going to kill them and shoot them out of the sky.
Yeah.
Not only kill them, but eat them. They want to find out what they taste like.
Well, I'm glad you segued those two things together, Doc, because I was sitting there thinking, like, Jesus is one of his patented statements that everybody used is that these things I do, you will be able to do these things and more.
And more.
And then he follows up But you must be, as you have in the book, you must be born again. You must come with a different consciousness. You must come with a different way of looking at things. You must come with a different way of treating people in this sea of love. And so, you know, we take these things sometimes too figuratively, and we don't allow consciousness outside of, you said, our little slice to expand what's possible, to expand what we're really here to attempt and do. And so we get stuck in the muck and the mire.
Yep. No, the if you look at virtually every one of Jesus's miracles, he prefaced it with, "You can do this. Why are you not doing this?" Okay.
Yes.
When he all the disciples are going someplace, they get in a boat. Jesus, probably not trying not to pay the fare, he walks out to the boat, okay?
Yes.
And everybody is, "Lord, Master." He says, "Anybody can do this." So Peter gets out of the boat and starts walking on the water, looks down, says something like, "Holy shit," and starts drowning. Okay, he falls through and starts drowning. He says, "Master, Master." And what does Jesus say? "Oh, ye of little faith."
Yes.
Okay. It's like, once you get your act together, then you can walk on the water. Once you get your act together, you can say to the mountain, "Move," and the mountain will move from here to there. Once you get your act together, you can say to the carbon in the atmosphere, "Please come down," and the carbon will fall out of the sky, and we won't have to worry about global climate change anymore. Okay. But once you get your act together, the first thing to do is change the consciousness of all the people who are putting the carbon in the atmosphere in the first place.
Yes.
So our challenge is, how do we increase our consciousness energy so that we become the shining beacons that everybody else is looking for and everybody else needs to talk to? We will look past all of the conditioning that we've been conditioned with, and we'll look to the core essence of who we are. That's the challenge. How do we develop? And it's what I call in the new book. How do we develop holonic consciousness? How do we develop the consciousness of the whole? The consciousness that goes beyond my little brain scan here. The consciousness that goes beyond what we call Americans or English speakers. The consciousness that goes beyond even our humanity. And I mentioned Maladome some time ago. He was talking to me about how you listen to the fish, how you listen to the tree, how you recognize that once you are listening to the tree, once you are listening to the fish, once you are listening to the elk, they will tell you how to eat them, how to catch and eat them. They will tell you how to honor them. They will do transubstantiation so that you become the caribou, so that you become the elk, so that you become who you are. Once you have the consciousness of that, how in the world can you dig up the Amazon rainforest and plant soybeans? I mean, what? Show me the thought process that says that, okay? The distorting tool, though, the distortion is money.
Right.
Yeah, the distortion is that money makes us think a particular way or act a particular way, and we've got to rid ourselves not of money but of the consciousness of something that can't be conscious.
When you mentioned the Amazon, my first thought was, yes, we need more people to be the Lorax, to go out and speak for the trees, and we need people to go out and speak for the dolphins and the salmon and the chickens, and we need more people to speak for these systems. And my mind jumped to exactly the same thing you said. You can't make a living doing that.
Right.
Or how is it possible to make a living doing good in the world? And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up and say, okay, I'll just make a lot of money and and then pay somebody else to do it.
Right. Yeah. I tried to address this toward the end of the new book, where if we're thinking holonically, if we're thinking that all of these beings have consciousness and all of us can be part of that consciousness, we can start working holonically. You start working in such a way that it doesn't matter whether or not I'm getting paid. It doesn't matter how much I'm getting paid. It doesn't matter. I'm not a better person because I'm making more money, or a lesser person because I'm making less money, etc. What happens when, instead of the millions of workers for Amazon, instead of them making their little meager amounts of money, and one person getting $250 billion, okay, what happens when that one person, let's give him some billions of dollars, okay? I don't take anything from him. I take the excess from him. Yeah. How about if we get to the point where all of us have enough? And once all of us have enough, I can keep working, but I'm not working for money. I'm working for the good of the entire community and the good of all. We know what it feels like to work with a community that where the community's needs are more important than my needs. What if we can do that all the time? What if we do that every day and all the time? I think is going to be a challenge.
I love that, and I love your choice of words between holistic and holonic. Because the holonic, in my mind, if I remember the word correctly, that causes you to be observant. It causes you to be an active participant in the thing, and not just some logical step-by-step thing without any observation. And I'm gonna have to go dig. I'm waiting for the book. Like Robert said, I got it on order because I'm waiting to get, because that's what one of the things that you clearly stated there to me was that there has, you can only eat so much, and then you're gonna be full. And if you keep eating as opposed to being full, you're going to get sick. And so now we've moved into a whole nother dynamic of something that's needed that has now become, toxic and potentially deadly. And so how do we find that holonic, that observational way of saying, how do we live together? How do we work together? How do we solve these, what seem to be insurmountable problems in almost a blink of an eye, if we can look at it in a holonic way? I appreciate that. That's going to be my mantra for the next 12 weeks here, is to get deep into that.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah.
Fabulous. All right. Well, hey, folks, we could probably go on for a few more hours because we touched on a bunch of topics in the pre-show that we haven't even talked about here in this show. So before we do wrap this up, I guess I've got one more question. Dr. Shariff, will you come back sometime?
Sure. We'll just set up the time and I'll be here. Yeah.
There we go. So we'll continue this
a 5-hour conversation and just keep going. Send out the food.
There we go. we'll multiply some loaves and fishes as we do it. How's that sound? That sounds like a good way to go about it. So, but before we do go here, folks, I want to give, as our normal, I want to give everybody a chance to do their final thoughts, and we're going to start with Rev Z tonight.
Yeah, I think my final thought is a great big thank you to Dr. Shariff of this forward thinking idea. And I'm going to just throw a feather in the air and say, hey, we should, once the book comes out and we get some folk reading it, we should come back and do a deep dive on some of the principles and how do we begin to implement them, as Doc said, first in my life, and then exhibit that to others and be able to form that. So I know that's not a thought. That's more than a thought, but that's what I'm thinking right now. I just, and I'm going to be quiet.
Right on. Dr. Shariff.
Well, number one, I do a really rotten job of being my own salesperson. So I guess I should say that if you want to stay in contact with me, if you go to the website, www.commonway.org, at the bottom of every page, it says, how do you subscribe or how can you join? And just put your name and address and you'll be up to date with us when I'm sending out notices. The other thing is on that page, if you go to the top of the page and you look at store or shop at the top right-hand corner, you can see all of the books that Commonway is offering. And I would get your eye on birthing the nation of Gaia. What does it mean for us to be in one nation that covers the entire globe and is not based in any particular ideology other than the ideology of all of us together? I'm looking for, I believe that this is a possibility. I believe it's a possibility in our lifetime, but that means that we all have to get active. And that activity is going to be showing itself, revealing itself to all of us, including me, over time. But the time is going to be really, really rapid. We can see the things that are pointing away from our continued existence on this planet. I think it's time for us to start looking at what we're being born into, and that this is a moment of birth. And if you've ever seen birth, it's just as messy as the processes that we've got right now. But at the end of the process, you don't worry about the messiness. You're thankful for the baby you brought to the world. And our world is in need of this new baby. So thank you. And I look forward to our next time.
Absolutely. I agree. Go buy the book, folks. Just go for it. And $15, it's incredibly reasonably priced. I'm sure you could command quite a bit more for what's in there, because I have seen the digital version and gotten a chance to peruse a little bit and dig in a little bit. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to get that in my hands. So, and you said something in our conversation that really hit me, and that's that the principles that work in one place, we have to adopt principles that are going to work in every place, in every different culture, and and so they do have to be simple, and they have to be something that we can hold, if you will, and live and demonstrate. And that so reminds me of a line in the original Global Vision, which was, we envision a world without borders. Where if you take that 30,000 foot view, you don't see borders, you don't see ethnic borders, you don't see political borders, you see planet Earth. And the artistry in the cover of this book is so beautiful, because here, let's bring it back up again. We are giving birth to the nation of Gaia, to the planet, in a new way. And for me, that's a piece of excitement. That's something to look forward to. And I'm really really excited to take this journey and join you on that. And again, once we get some people reading this book, a few more of us, our folks, our friends and family reading this book, let's come back and do a deep dive sometime.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Folks, we're out of here for now. We've run a little bit into overtime, but that's okay. That happens here on occasion. It's our network. We can do almost anything we want. So thanks for being with us. We're going to get out of here, but until next time, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.